Quick disclaimer, this recap is done in a timeline manner, not the way it was presented to us in the story. Alright, let's go! We start the story off with our main character's father, who I'm going to refer to as John A.
I understood that reference.
After 20 years of searching for a shipwreck called the Royal Merchant, he finds it with minimal help from this guy by the name of Mr. Ward. Now Mr. Ward wanted to split the treasure 50-50, but John A wasn't going like that because he did all the work. The two get in a fight and John A bangs his head, losing consciousness. Now the clown called Mr. Ward assumes that John A is already dead without even checking a pulse, so he dumps his body into the ocean and sank his boat. And since John A wasn't dead, he drifts to a deserted island where he carves a message on his compass for his son John B to find. Several months later, Mr. Ward hires this guy by the name of Scooter to find the treasure, but he instead finds John A's body with the compass. On his way back to report it to Mr. Ward, he dies in a tropical storm, and his boat sank. Which brings us finally to the story of the Kooks versus the Pogues. The Kooks are basically the people that are rich in the Outer Banks, and the Pogues are limited to John B and his friends, who are the following. There's Kiara, whose family is actually well off, but she likes the Pogues. There's Pope, who's the smart one in the group, and JJ, the dumb one in the group. And on the rich side of town, you have Sarah and Rafe, who are children of Mr. Ward, and this love-obsessed guy by the name of Topper, who's dating Sarah. Anyways, John B and his friends find John A's compass from Scooter's shipwreck. Following the message left behind on the compass, they realize that John A wants them to find the gold that was left behind on the shipwreck. After searching for the gold and being unable to find it, John B realizes that the gold was hidden on land and not at the bottom of the sea. He then uses Sarah's help to find the gold, but while using Sarah, he falls in love with her and they start dating. Sarah then breaks up with Topper, but Topper, not taking the breakup so well, pushes John B off a balcony, but he somehow only broke his wrist, so he's good. Meanwhile, Sarah's brother Rafe, who got into a lot of debt with a drug dealer by the name of Barry, gets disowned and kicked out the house because of his incompetence. While overhearing John B about the gold that he found with Sarah, Mr. Ward tried to offer John B a deal to go about 50-50 on the gold, and John B, like John A, said no. So Mr. Ward tried to kill John B, but John B escaped after finding out that Mr. Ward killed his father. Mr. Ward then goes and liberates John B and his gang from the gold that they found, and decides to run away with the gold and Sarah to the Bahamas, after claiming that John B assaulted him. But with Pope and the gang's help, John B finds out that Mr. Ward was planning to leave and stops him. That's when the local sheriff by the name of Sheriff Peterkins comes in to arrest Mr. Ward for the murder of John A. Fortunately for her, Rafe, who's desperate for his father's approval, shoots and kills her. Mr. Ward then takes that chance to frame John B for the murder of the sheriff, and also flies the gold to the Bahamas. With the discount FBI in town and a manhunt for John B, he somehow convinces Topper that he's not the one who murdered Sheriff Peterkins. But with the help of his friends, he decides to flee the Outer Banks with Sarah. But while attempting to flee, they get driven into a tropical storm, and their boat gets capsized. Everybody on the Outer Banks then assume that Sarah and John B are dead. They are actually rescued by a boat going to the Bahamas, where the gold is located. Second season basically picks off at the end of the first season. John B and Sarah get rescued by Terrence and Cleo. You don't really need to remember Terrence, but Cleo comes back around.
How many times, huh?
Twice. Anyways, Cleo and Terrence take John B and Sarah to the Bahamas, exactly where the gold is.
Wow, what are the odds of that, right?
Looks like 100%. Because with their newfound friends, Cleo and Terrence, they decide to rob Ward and Rafe, who I just call Wicked and Wicked Jr. Long story short, the whole thing goes bad. Really bad. Wicked and Wicked Jr. find out that Sarah's alive and both try to kill her multiple times. Wicked Jr., aka Rafe, does shoot and actually kills Sarah Cameron. But thanks to John B's powerful speech and undying love for Sarah, get it? Cause undying love, she comes
I understood that reference.
She comes back to life. Afterwards, Cleo gets separated from John B and Sarah as John B and Sarah head towards the Outer Banks. And yes, without the gold because Wicked got away with it again. Which brings us to the Outer Banks where Pope, JJ, and Kiara go on their own little adventure. You see, this woman by the name of Carla Limbry has handicapped parking and is sick nearly 24/7. So in order to get unsick and lose her parking spot, needs this golden cross that is supposed to heal all ailments. Also once funded Wicked, but now they're on bad terms. Anyways, to get this cross, she needs the help of Pope, who's a direct descendant of the original owner. You know, it's actually funny. His name is Pope and he's trying to get a cross. That's great. Anyways, while running away from Limbry, Pope, JJ, and Kiara run into John B and Sarah.
I've waited so long to hear you say that.
That was the best day of my life.
Another long story short, John B was about to go down for the murder of the previous sheriff from last season. You know, the sheriff that Wicked Jr. killed? Well, the discount FBI saves the day. Kind of. Found evidence that Wicked Jr., aka Rafe, was the one responsible for killing the sheriff. Before they can get him, Ward confesses to the murder of the sheriff as well as murdering Big John, then proceeds to fake his own death, which everybody believes. After that, the Pogues find Pope's cross. Just like the gold in season 1, it was quickly stolen from them. This time Rafe takes it to Limbry and she realizes that what she needed from the cross is no longer inside the cross. So Rafe, aka Wicked Jr., and with Wicked take the cross on a cargo ship leaving the Outer Banks. That's definitely not the only cargo that's not supposed to be there, because the previous night Sarah was drugged and put on the ship, in part to Rose, who's married to Wicked.
Turns out, they're all crazy.
Anyways, when the Pogues hear of this, they all sneak aboard the ship, which is where they run into Chloe once again, who happens to be working on the ship.
Wow, what are the odds?
Anyways, after a long battle with everybody on the ship basically wanting to kill Chloe and the Pogues, that should be a band name. Anyways, Chloe and the Pogues managed to escape, and unsurprisingly without any treasure. After their escapes, the Pogues, now including Chloe, end up on an island they now call Poguelandia. The season then ends with the revelation that Big John is alive.
How about the shroud?
I know where it is. I can help you. But you have to help my son.
Yes, he's alive.
In season 3, the Pogues wash up on a deserted island which they decide to call Poguelandia. They get rescued pretty quick, but just as quick, fall into a series of unfortunate events. You see, it all started when Kiara tried to be a hero, but got captured. The person who captured her is a guy by the name of Carlos Singh. Mr. Singh here is after the lost treasure of El Dorado, the same treasure that John B's dad has been hunting for all of his life. Anyway, Singh believes that if he uses Kiara, the Pogues, and even the Camerons, he would be able to find the treasure. And I do mean use because he's a very dangerous man with a lot of goons.
That's a surprise tool that can help us later.
Anyways, after Kiara escapes, John B gets separated from the group because he hears a series of bells that can only mean that his father is calling him home.
What?
And surprisingly, he was right because he reunites with his father, Big John. You know, it finally just occurred to me why they call him John B. Huh. Well anyways, after slumming in with his old man for a few episodes, John B and myself come to the realization that his father doesn't care about anything but the treasure. And speaking of not caring, this is the perfect opportunity to talk about the relationships of the season. Both JJ and Kiara confess their love for each other, and Pope and Cleo sort of become a thing. At the same time, Ward and Rafe have been butting heads all season. You see, all Rafe wants is the approval of his father, and all Ward wants is the approval of his daughter Sarah, and to be surrounded by enormous piles of money. But only Rafe gets what he wants, because Ward, before leaving to go find the treasure of El Dorado, tells Rafe that he can take over the family empire, which should be enough for Rafe, but he's a psychopath, so we'll see. Anyways, eventually the dads and the Pogues find the treasure. That's when Ward sends a text to Singh calling him over to the treasure. When Singh gets there, he starts dumping lead into the jungle. Unfortunately, Big John gets shot, but luckily he survives long enough to make it to the treasure and protect his son John B by killing Singh. And remember when I said Singh has a lot of goons? Well, one of those goons had the dads and the Pogues at gunpoint. That's when Ward decides to sacrifice himself and protect Sarah, and also taking out the goon in the process. So, no more dads and Pogues, it's just Pogues now. The season then ends with a time jump of a year and some change, where the Pogues are doing really good for themselves, but a mysterious man approaches them about finding the lost treasure of Blackbeard. Season 4 takes place 18 months after the events of Season 3, where after selling all of their gold, they accumulate a little over $1 million. Decided to open a bait and surf shop, but first they need to acquire the land, and immediately everything started going downhill. You see, Pope here had the bright idea of combining all of their money into one account, hence the $1 million fund. They then get into a bidding war for the land where JJ spends over $700,000 to get the land.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it gets worse. After opening their bait and surf shop, they quickly run out of money and only have enough to pay the taxes for the next month. But don't worry, because JJ steps in to gamble away the rest of the tax money, and that leaves them in a very desperate situation. And as you know, desperate times call for desperate measures. Luckily for them, a guy by the name of West Jinred, who heard about their escapades in El Dorado, hires them to find a treasure lost by Blackbeard. They believe that this treasure will help lift the curse that's on his family. But before the kids can get the treasure back to him, he gets murdered. Now here's where the story gets a little convoluted, so I'm going to tell it in a way that hopefully makes sense. You see, West Jinred had a daughter by the name of Larissa Jinred, who had a son by the name of JJ. But neither JJ or Wes know this. This is because JJ's real father, Chandler Groff, who was married to Larissa Jinred, murdered her and claimed that she drowned with her baby boy JJ. All because he wants to inherit the property that would rightfully go to JJ. And instead of offing baby JJ, Chandler gives JJ to his adoptive father, who also happens to be a piece of You know, all 4 fathers in this show so far have been terrible people, but somehow Chandler takes the cake as the worst father yet. Anyways, coming back to the present, the kids go after Blackbeard's treasure, which is a blue crown. This is the only thing that can get them out of their debt and save their land, you know, other than getting a job. Getting to this treasure, like all the rest, is not easy, because there's 3 groups, including the kids, that are after this treasure. We have a group of mercenaries, Chandler Groff, and finally the kids. All 3 groups sabotage each other each chance they get. Especially this guy Chandler. This guy will probably sacrifice his own mother's life for $1. Anyways, they all practically find out at the same time that they need to go to Morocco to find the treasure. That's exactly what they all do. The kids, including Rafe at this point, head over to Morocco. Rafe is only along because he hates Chandler as much as I do, and Chandler stole $400,000 from him. And while they travel to Morocco, here are the relationship updates for the season. Pope and Cleo are doing great, but Pope now has a felony. Because of JJ. John B and Sarah are doing great, and Sarah's pregnant. Kiara and JJ at this point are the rockiest, because JJ's going through a lot after finding out that his father is actually Chandler. Just like that, the kids are in Morocco, where two very important things happen. The first thing is that JJ finds that crown.
Yeah, baby!
The second is that Chandler ends the whole Gin Red line by stabbing and killing JJ and taking the crown.
What?
The season then ends with the group very determined to get revenge for JJ. Yeah, I hope I answered all of your questions, but if I didn't, be sure to leave a comment. I read them all. And if you like that video and want to see more like it, leave a like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. And if you like my Outer Banks recap, you may like this recap right here. That's it.